This is the sleeping fire. The ancient Egyptians called it Jadet, a force coiled 3.5 times, dormant, waiting in silence. There are those who believe Kundalini is just energy, but Thoth, the great Atlantean scribe and architect of sacred knowledge, wrote otherwise. In the lost pages of the Emerald Tablets, those no longer read aloud, he revealed that Kundalini is not energy alone, it is memory. The memory of who you were before birth, before time, before this body. When I first discovered this, I couldn't breathe. Not because of fear, but because something else started breathing through me. A pulse, ancient and primal. I felt it at the base of my spine, like a whisper in stone curling upward, unseen but undeniable. Modern science maps the nervous system. Ancient science maps the light system. And right there between your root and your spine is a gateway. Not metaphorical, real. Invisible, but real. The serpent slumbers until you speak the forgotten command. Close your eyes. Exhale once. Now say, softly, with your mind, Za'a Ku. Feel that? If done correctly, the base of your body just trembled. That's not imagination. That's the Jade awakening. Thoth never shouted. He never begged the world to listen. He encoded everything in shape, sound, and silence. In the silent chambers beneath the Great Pyramid, far from the tourist paths, there is a room no map shows. It was said that initiates were blindfolded and led there by sound alone. In that dark stillness, Thoth spoke one sentence to each disciple. Your body is a temple, but your spine is the altar. And at that altar coils the most sacred geometry in all of creation. The serpent, the spiral, the helix of awakening. Why does DNA spiral? Why do galaxies spin? Why do sound waves ripple in circles when they heal? Because the Kundalini is not a metaphor, it is a mirror, a reflection of the cosmos inside your form. The danger? Most try to awaken it like they're lighting a match. But Thoth warned, if the altar is unclean, the fire becomes poison. And I remember the first time I felt it, when I dared to chant the unspoken tones of Thoth's first teaching. The vibration started in my bones. I wasn't singing, I was being sung through. Then came the dreams, snakes of gold, spiraling suns, my own body turning into a temple of light. If you're ready, sit in silence for 11 seconds. Feel your spine. Imagine it as a ladder. Now hum softly. Ra-ka. Only once. That is enough. If your palms tingled, or your lips grew warm, the geometry has begun rearranging. This is not just heat. This is the holy blaze that remakes everything it touches. The ancient yogis called it Agni. The Egyptians named it Sekhem. And Thoth, he called it the fire that bends time. Why? Because once Kundalini begins to rise, time warps. You no longer live as a being in time. You become a being who shapes it. The fire doesn't just climb, it rewrites. Memory, emotion, DNA, all bathed in flame. When the fire first moved through me, I saw colors I didn't have names for. My spine turned into a staircase of light. I shook, wept, laughed, then silence. Total, sacred, still silence. But not empty. It was full of presence, intelligence, and something that felt older than God. Here's the secret. The fire cannot be controlled. It can only be welcomed. Most people try to activate Kundalini as if it's an engine. Push this, squeeze that, breathe like this. But they forget. The serpent rises when you surrender, not when you command. If you're truly ready, try this. Sit upright. Place your hands over your lower belly. Now breathe slowly in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. Do this 3 times, then whisper inwardly, I welcome the fire. Wait. If a tingling begins in your feet or spine, don't move. Let it come. It will feel like a river of light. It may burn. It may heal. Or it may do both at once. This is not a toy. This is not a trend. This is sacred combustion. Not metaphor, not philosophy. Your spine is the living wand through which the divine carves reality. This is the part they don't teach you in yoga class. The ancients didn't just stretch the spine, they revered it as the scepter of the gods. In Egypt, it was the jade pillar, a symbol not just of stability, but of resurrection. In India, the 7 chakras aren't merely energy points, they are locks and keys forged into the spinal temple. Thoth knew this. He wrote, "He who aligns the serpent with the scepter shall speak the language of the stars." And when I tell you I felt it, I mean I felt it. One evening, alone, beneath a red moon, I sat for hours. No mantras, no music, just presence. Then something clicked, not physically, something in the space between the vertebrae. Suddenly, the air turned thick like honey. My breath stopped, and a current, like golden wind, rose from the base of my spine to the crown of my head. It was no longer me breathing. It was the wand, channeling the storm. Do you want to feel that? Here's what to do. Lie flat on your back. Place one hand on your heart, one on your belly. Now breathe in and out in a rhythm that feels like a wave, not forced, not held. As you breathe, visualize your spine as a rod of shimmering light like a tuning fork. On your next breath, whisper in your mind, "Open the scepter." That's it. If you do this correctly even once, you may feel a pull at the back of your neck or a magnetic pressure at the crown. That is the wand beginning to hum. And if you hear a high tone, like ringing in your ears, that is not tinnitus. That is the frequency of remembrance. You think you are watching the energy, but one day, you realize it has been watching you all along. Thoth wrote that true awakening cannot begin until the third eye opens not outward, but inward. Everyone wants visions, colors, patterns, but the eye of Kundalini doesn't show you galaxies. It shows you, yourself, unfiltered, unmasked, unhealed. And that's where most stop, because when the fire hits the third eye, it doesn't just bring light, it brings truth. And truth, in its purest form, is terrifying. The Tibetans called it the clear light, a white brilliance so raw that many initiates fled their practice for years after first contact. In Egypt, this was the Ujjat, the all-seeing eye of Horus that doesn't blink, even when you tremble. I remember mine. Not a hallucination, not a dream. I was meditating. No intention, just stillness. And then, I felt something open in the center of my head, not physically but as real as any touch. And then, I saw myself. Every wound, every lie, every mask, and something inside whispered, "Now, are you ready to burn it away? If you are, here is the exercise Thoth left hidden in glyphs decoded through sound. 1. Sit in complete darkness, or close your eyes. 2. Place your awareness directly behind your forehead, not on it, but deep inside. 3. Now hum softly, letting the vibration fill your skull. Ze, tha. 4. One long tone, once only. Then wait. If done properly, you may feel pressure or swirling, or even a subtle expansion inside your head. You might even see, without seeing a light where there is no light. That is the eye awakening, and it does not forget. This eye doesn't give visions for fun. It burns illusions. It watches everything, including your lies. Are you ready to be seen? They say sound heals. But the serpent, it awakens with sound. And not just any sound, only the forbidden syllables of the ancients. Modern science now agrees. Your cells react to vibration. But Thoth taught that certain sounds don't just influence the body, they command the serpent. And not all tones are safe. Most people chant blindly, repeating mantras like parrots, without knowing the danger. But the serpent has ears, and once awakened, it obeys only the ancient tongue, the syllables spoken by the priest scientists of Atlantis, Egypt, and Vedic India. This isn't music. It's vibrational ignition. The first time I discovered this, I was experimenting with tonal breathwork at 2 a.m. One syllable, one sound, and suddenly it moved. The fire jumped, not gradually violently, like lightning up my spine. My vision blurred, time disappeared. And the sound? It wasn't coming from me anymore. It came through me. It echoed into dimensions I didn't know existed. The syllable was H-A-A, the, only to be whispered, never shouted. Let me share Thoth's sequence. Do this gently. 1. Sit still. No music. No distractions. 2. Place your tongue lightly against the roof of your mouth. 3. Whisper aloud, slowly, and with reverence. Ha-the. Feel the sound like wind through stone. Repeat once, that's all. What happens next depends on your readiness. Some hear ringing, some feel heat, some dream of serpents that night. But those who truly align may feel a twist in the sacrum, like something old is remembering. That is not your imagination. That is the sound unlocking the serpent's chamber. Warning: never chant it more than once per day. This is not a toy, it is a trigger. Thoth warned, 3 sounds awaken, a 4th enslaves. Beware the 4th. We'll speak of the 4th another time. This is not air. This is the wind that blew before the world was born. If the serpent is fire, and the spine is the wand, then breath is the key, but not the kind of breathing you've been taught. Thoth described breath as the invisible staff of Ra, a current that, when directed properly, splits open the chambers of the inner temple. You breathe every day, but do you direct it? Do you shape it like a sculptor with clay? Do you ride it like a chariot, upward through the gates of the self? Most do not, but the ancients did. In both Egyptian and Indian scrolls, there are whispers of a breath that opens the jade, the pillar, and calls the serpent upward. It is not fast, it is not loud, it is a spiral breath, mimicking the very motion of Kundalini itself. The first time I practiced this breath, I thought nothing happened, until 3 days later, I woke up from a dreamless sleep and wept, not from sadness, but because something in me had moved. My spine felt like it was humming, like an old engine had turned on after lifetimes of silence. And in that hum was a message: keep breathing. Here is the practice. Follow it exactly. N. Sit upright, spine tall. 2. Breathe in for 6 counts, slowly, as if spiraling the breath around your spine, from base to brow. 3. Hold for 3 counts. 4. Exhale for 6 counts, letting the spiral descend again. 5. Repeat only 3 times. Then stop. Sit in silence. If done correctly, you may feel asterisk, gentle pressure in the tailbone, asterisk, buzzing in the limbs, asterisk, a sudden emotional release, often unexpected. These are not side effects. These are signals. The breath is winding the key. The serpent is stirring. And once it rises, it does not fall back asleep. They never tell you this part. The part where the light burns too bright and reveals what you were never ready to see. Yes, Kundalini transforms. Yes, it heals, awakens, elevates, but only if you are willing to lose everything that isn't truth. Thoth warned us. The serpent is both healer and destroyer. The path forks: one way leads to light, the other to madness. This is the shadow gate. When Kundalini rises through a being who clings to illusion, it doesn't create enlightenment, it creates collapse, panic, nightmares, a sense of falling through the self, with no floor beneath. This is not failure, this is purification. But most escape. They numb it, distract from it. Some even label it psychosis when in truth, it is a sacred demolition. I remember the first time the serpent showed me my shadow. I had just completed a powerful breath and sound ritual. Everything felt golden until it didn't. Suddenly, guilt I didn't know I had exploded in my chest. I couldn't move. I saw the faces of everyone I had hurt, even in past lives. And a voice, my own voice, spoke inside my head. Are you ready to die and become? It's terrifying, and it's perfect. So how do you survive the shadow gate? By breathing through it, by letting the fire burn it all, by not running. Here is the practice for when the shadow comes. 1. Sit in stillness. 2. Acknowledge the fear. Speak, I see you. 3. Then breathe in slowly, while visualizing dark smoke rising from your base. 4. On the exhale, see the smoke turning to light. Repeat 3 times. If done honestly, you may cry, you may shake. Good. That means it's working. The serpent cannot rise fully until the house is clean. Shadow is not the enemy. Shadow is the price. You thought awakening was a moment, but when the crown opens, you realize awakening is an infinite descent into light. They call it Sahasrara in Sanskrit. The Egyptians depicted it with a shining sun over the head of Horus. Thoth simply called it the gateway of return, because when the serpent completes her climb, when she pierces the crown, it's not just energy that flows. It is remembrance of other lives, of other realms, of why you came. This isn't about floating into bliss. That's just the beginning. The true transformation is what happens after the light. You begin to speak differently, eat differently, move differently. Your DNA hums with something ancient. You remember tones you've never sung. You understand symbols you've never seen. But before that, there is fire. Not heat, fire. I remember my first full rising. It wasn't grand. I was alone, sitting beside a candle. And suddenly, I wasn't. I was a temple. I was a conduit. I was the serpent coiled in the stars. My body lit up with a heatless flame, brilliant, pure, silent. And in that moment, I heard the words of Thoth, not in language, but in vibration. Now you are as the gods if you dare to remain. Here is how to prepare for the crown. 1. Sit in stillness, having completed any breath or chant practice prior. 2. Place your awareness 2 inches above your skull. 3. Visualize a golden lotus slowly opening. 4. Whisper inwardly 3 times, "Return me now," then let go. If ready, you may feel a rush of pressure at the top of your head, a vertical current pulling upward, a ringing, chime, or flash of light. That is the crown responding. This is the final gate before the full rebirth. But remember, the fire only finishes its path when the heart consents. You thought Kundalini ends at the crown, but Thoth revealed the ultimate secret: the serpent returns to the heart. This is what most miss. They chase the upward spiral, the light, the visions, the cosmic dances, but the final phase is neither ascent nor descent. It is seating. Thoth wrote, "The fire is not fulfilled until it bows at the heart. There it sits, as king upon the throne." Why? Because the heart is the true temple, where fire becomes love, where power becomes presence, where awakening becomes service. The heart is not just an organ. It is the only chamber capable of holding divine voltage, the only space vast enough to contain the infinite. When the serpent returns to the heart, everything changes. You no longer seek to awaken. You become the awakening. You speak, and people feel truth. You breathe, and those around you begin to shift. This is how the ancient initiates were recognized, not by robes or symbols, but by the feeling that followed them. I remember the moment the fire seated in my chest. There was no flash, no visions, just warmth so deep it felt eternal. A stillness that filled the room, the sense that nothing was missing. And then the whisper, "Now, give it away." This is the last practice, the throne activation. 1. Place both palms over your heart. 2. Close your eyes and breathe softly without effort, without force. 3. Now, repeat inwardly, slowly, "All of me returns to the heart." 4. Breathe until the body dissolves into silence. Stay here as long as you feel called. You may cry, you may feel nothing, you may feel everything. That's perfect, because this is the end of seeking. The serpent rests, and from here, you live differently, wiser, slower, radiant. You've done it. If you've reached this point, the transmission is complete. Let the others know you've arrived. Comment below, "The fire has returned to my heart," or "The journey has begun." Subscribe not just to stay informed, but to tune your field into this growing frequency of awakening. Every subscription, every like, every share is part of the resonance. You're not just helping a channel, you are echoing the ancient vibration forward into the new age. One voice, one serpent, one throne of light. We are the remembering.